Good evening. We'll call to order the City of Douglasville's City Council special meeting for today, which is Monday, June 5th at 5:45. It's here. This is a public hearing for our budget. And the first committee and only committee that we're here to discuss is a Finance Committee. The Vice Chair asks that you would please come up, Mr. Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Presentations of proposed City of Douglasville 1. Conference Center Fund, 2. Confiscated Assets Fund, 3. Convention and Visitors Bureau Fund, 4. General Fund, 5. Multiple Grant Fund, 6. Public Purpose Corporation Fund, 7. Rental Car Tax Fund, and 8. Sanitation Fund budgets for fiscal year 2017-2018, to be followed by public comment and discussion. I'll have our City Manager, Marcia Hampton, and Finance Director, Karen Callan, come up to do the presentations.
Thank you, Chairman. The only open comments that I will have is that following the presentation, if anyone needs a copy of the presentation, it will, 1, be available online. 2, we do have some hard copies that we will be able to provide to you. Ms. Callan will go over the presentation. I will make comments where necessary, and then after that, we will entertain comments from the public.
All right, thank you everyone for coming out this evening. This is to adopt our 2018 City of Douglasville budget. This is our public hearing. We're requesting citizen input and comments. I put a quick PowerPoint together to go over our budget, so please stop me if you have any questions as I go through the PowerPoint. To go over our budget process, the City Council and staff retreat to establish priorities at the beginning of January for the upcoming budget year. Then the development of the budget by the department directors ensues from February 2017 to around May 2017. Then we have our budget workshop. We had one June 1st, June 2nd. We had it a day and a half to discuss all items in the budget. Today we're having our public hearing, and then adoption of the budget will be June 15th, the legislative work session, and June 19th, regular meeting. The total general fund budget is $27,396,187. It's a decrease of 2% overall from last year's 2017 amended budget. Our largest decrease was in other financing sources. That's a 25% decrease. That is due to the prior year we had a one-time infusion of a revenue source from a Greystone power audit that we will not have again this year. So that accounts for our largest decrease of the general fund budget. To go over our millage rate history, from 2010 to 2017 estimated, you can see in 2014 to 2015, that's when we had the service delivery strategy agreement with Douglas County, which increased our budget by a little over $1.9 million for our animal control and fire services. Then in 2016, we rolled back the millage rate. And in 2017, based on our discussion during the budget workshop, we were looking at not rolling back. We don't have our tax digest numbers yet, but that is how our budget is programmed at this point. What makes up our general fund revenues? 77% makes up taxes. I'll have a breakdown of these individual taxes. There are many different sources of taxes on the next slide. Charges for service, 5%, and that includes our Parks and Recreation service fees, our West Pines fees that when you play the golf course, our Parks and Recreation fees for when you have athletic leagues, those types of things. 10% is for licenses and permits. Those are our building permits and business license, occupational license, and so forth. Fines and forfeitures represent 7%. Investment income, $35,000, a small percentage, as we know interest rates are still fairly low, and miscellaneous revenue of 1%. Our breakdown of taxes of the $21,026,180. Property taxes account for 39% of our total, 77% of taxes. Sales tax, 31%, and franchise taxes at 12%. Our general fund expenditures Our largest decrease is general government, and that also is due to the contingency from the one-time infusion of the Greystone Power franchise. Across the board, general fund expenditures, you'll see in a later slide, that due to the new SPLOST that we received funding for this year, we were able to move quite a bit of capital that we would have had to purchase from our general fund, maintenance and operations, into the SPLOST fund. General fund expenses, general government, 35%. That includes city manager, finance, legislative budget, information technology. We have public safety, which accounts for 37%, which is our largest piece of the general fund budget, and that is very usual in all local governments. Judicial represents 3%, culture and recreation 11%, and community development 5%. And debt service with a small 2% of the total general fund budget. General fund highlights, we did fund 4 additional police officers, and again, that is reflective of how our SPLOST funds helped the maintenance and operating budget. We did decide to fund 4 additional police officers. Our salaries and benefits, we have programmed in an up to 3% merit. However, we do not have a cost of living in the budget at this time. We do have tuition assistance, a sick leave buyback program that we have implemented to attract and retain employees. We did not use fund balance to balance the budget, which is a good thing. That shows that we have enough revenues to cover our expenses. In our fleet maintenance department, we have programmed in software expenses to have a better accounting of all of our vehicle fleets, and that should include a GPS system. In Parks and Recreation, we have master plan programmed in for all parks and a north side community study. Capital funding in the general fund, we have a vehicle for our inspections department, code enforcement, and a pickup truck for maintenance. We have a software conversion for information technology, information tagging system. Best practices is to always include a contingency line item in your budget. And additionally this year, not additionally, but continuing to support fire service and animal control, which is about $1.9 million each year through an intergovernmental agreement with Douglas County. Those are the general fund budget highlights. Any questions or comments? Moving on to our special revenue funds and our capital fund budgets, we had the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is funded by 8% hotel motel tax. That budget increased by 41%. Hotel motel taxes are increasing, and we are planning on doing some refurbishing of the CBB Welcome Center. Conference Center is funded by the 8% hotel motel tax. There is a 0% increase in the Conference Center. Multiple grant fund, we have a 58% increase in that budget, and that is all our capital funds that are matched with grant, and we are using some SPLOST funding to match those grant funds. Confiscated asset funds, we have a decrease of 49% and 34% respectively. Sanitation fund, a 2% increase. Capital road fund, we did not have this fund the prior year. That is $316,000, and that's specifically to pave a subdivision. Our public safety debt service fund, we did some refinancing of the bonds for the Public Safety Administration building. That resulted in a 6% decrease in that debt service payment. Conference Center Construction Fund and the Public Purpose Corporation Fund and Rental Car Fund are the same year over year. Our SPLOST fund, we had a 3,812% increase. We started receiving the funds in April of 2017, so we had a small budget that we adopted during the current year. And $10,289,000 we have programmed for the subsequent year in fiscal year 18. You can see our capital funding for SPLOST is over $10 million, and our general fund capital is only $314,690, which allowed us to program in professional services, studies, software, those types of things this year. The SPLOST fund budget highlights, we have $4.5 million in street resurfacing, our resurfacing portion of the SPLOST. We have a street sweeper, a K-boom truck for street maintenance. And Parks and Recreation, we have West Pines Greens conversion, clubhouse renovation, Hunter Park Pavilion, and playground improvements across all parks in the city. For public safety, we have the body cameras, tag readers, crime scene software, police vehicles, and the radio tower. And for our facilities portion of the SPLOST, we have sanitation and maintenance, which are matching the sanitation funds for the building, the new sanitation and maintenance building, and design funds for City Hall. Our budget adoption will be June 15th and June 19th. Any questions or comments?
Comments? Yes. That's in the budget.
Yes, we have included that in the budget. Yes, ma'am. We have $100,000 allocated to that line item.
Was that the contingency, the $100,000 contingency?
No. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Comments? Again, this will be posted online.
Just want to make sure it's clear for the members of the public that are here. This is a public hearing, and this would be your opportunity now to come up and ask any questions or make any comments about this budget. So the floor.
For the record, since this is being broadcast, maybe, so folks may be interested, we did spend 2 days, not that we didn't have any questions about the budget procedure, but, we asked those over the past few days before we did study.
Good point. And also, since we won't be voting on this for a couple weeks still, if you have any comments or questions that you don't want to come forward right now, send us an email to the finance director, your city council members. We do want to hear from you. So if there are no questions, then we can close the public hearing and